How did my jazz journey start? Well, it started with these three instruments. The first being the big boy of trumpets, named the flugelhorn, and of course the baby trumpet, which is called a cornet, and even a hamster playing a normal trumpet. But obviously I attempted other instruments, such as the bari sax, and even the ultra bari mega saxophone. And yes, this is me playing it. But I eventually chose trumpet as my main jazz instrument. But my musical journey didn't start with jazz. It started with marching band, trying out new instruments such as the mellophone, and eventually joining a small jazz group in high school, which involved a lot of experimentation, such as this. And other more important performances. And eventually, I joined a bebop jazz group in college, which is where I am now, taking various classes in jazz theory and improvisation. But why should jazz be important to those of you who don't play or listen to it? Well, jazz has a long history in the United States. African slavery was a huge influence in the creation of jazz as a whole. And places like New Orleans and even Boston were major melting pots of cultures where jazz was created in the United States. And eventually, jazz was spread across the whole United States, and even to Europe. Now, I know not many people care about history and are saying, why should I care about jazz, despite its history? Well, imagine life without music. There would be no Rihanna, no Lady Gaga, and not even Michael Jackson. That sounds like a boring world to live in. But thankfully, jazz is one of the many musical genres we can enjoy. We can enjoy playing and listening to it, along with any music. But recently, jazz has been a dying genre. And its audiences, and especially its popularity, are not nearly what they used to be. This is mainly because of the complexity of modern jazz. Not even those of us who can read music would attempt to play this piece of jazz. It's a competitive piece of jazz music. So why should an audience who doesn't even play jazz be interested in something so complicated and confusing such as competitive jazz music? Well, only the dedicated musicians can appreciate something as complicated as competitive jazz music. So how can we fix this lack of enthusiasm for jazz? Well, I agree with the famous modern jazz musician here, who is nicknamed Trombone Shorty, that jazz is one of the most difficult music genres to play. But that shouldn't stop jazz musicians from playing music that appeals to their audience. Musicians back in the late 1900s in jazz clubs would play music that their audiences loved. Those times were full of love for jazz and big audiences, so they must have been doing something right.